G'day, this video is about another one of the devil's lies to do with salvation doctrine. He redefines the word grace to mean unmerited favour. Now, the correct definition is just favour. So, unmerited favour is grace and merited favour is grace. But the devil says, no, grace only means merited favour. Now, it's interesting. We can see in some dictionaries, this one is Collins English Dictionary. See the third definition here? It shows that it's just favour, goodwill or favour. So grace means favour, just like I'm putting forward. And number 7, mercy, clemency. But number 8, in Christianity, they say it's unmerited favour. And so that's in A and also D. Unmerited gift. Why specifically unmerited? There's no reason to conclude that. And I'll show you that if we want to say that grace means only unmerited favour, we have to accept that something which is owed can also be a gift. And that's impossible. So I would say we need to conclude that grace is not unmerited favour. And that's probably why it's defined in the dictionary as only goodwill and favour, not unmerited favour. I'd say theologians toyed with it and really pushed for that unmerited word to be added there. But yeah, it's dishonest to do that. So we'll just get started with what I've got here. So although all unmerited favours are grace, not all grace is unmerited favour. Therefore, grace does not mean unmerited favour. Grace means not owed or favour. And anything that is not owed is grace or favour, and anything that is owed is not grace or favour. So they don't mix. It can't be owed and of grace, and it can't be grace and owed. So using this interpretation or this definition, faith alone as a doctrine is not a grace doctrine. The person does not receive the justification as something given as of grace. It is given as of debt or as something that is owed. And we'll get to that down further. And obeying to keep God's forgiveness is a grace doctrine. But according to the lie, so according to using the definition where grace means not deserved or unmerited favour, all of a sudden it's reversed. Faith alone is now a grace doctrine, and obeying to keep forgiveness is no longer a grace doctrine. So you can see how significant the redefining of it is. So we want to get it right. We want to be in the truth. We don't want to just go off what theologians think it should be. We want to go off what the scripture says it should be. And if there's no reason to define the word grace as specifically unmerited favour, then we shouldn't do that. So here I've got just a list of the possible ways that a thing can be given. So there are things given which are owed, and if it's owed, it's not of grace. That are not deserved, things that are owed that are deserved, things that are not owed that are not deserved, and things that are not owed that are deserved. Now the true salvation is in the blue one here at the bottom. So I've got some examples here, just one example per paragraph there. So you can see I've got 3 examples for the top option and just 2 for the bottom one. So we'll go to the bottom one because it's where the true salvation doctrine is. The one in the box here is the one of Christianity. So a man is forgiven only after remorse and regret have been seen in him, with a desire to not do the bad behaviour again. So you have to be repentant for God to be able to justify granting his forgiveness to you. So the forgiveness is a grace because it's not owed, and everything that is not owed is grace and is deserved. And we see this in the scripture. There's a proverb I think it's Proverbs 3:32. It's used in the New Testament in James chapter 4 verse 6 and 1 Peter 5:5. It says, God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. So you can see it's their humility that enables God to justify granting them favour. So it's a deserved, grace can be deserved according to the scripture, and that's what I'm putting forward here. So also the keeping of the forgiveness or grace can come with a requirement to obey. Now, looking at the example of the same kind of, we'd call it mode of giving, I guess. So it's given as of grace, as a gift, and it is deserved. A similar example, a man is given early release from prison, commonly referred to as parole, because of his good behaviour. The parole officer would not be denying him anything he is entitled to by denying him parole. So the prisoner is never entitled to parole. He's not owed parole. If the parole officer said no, even though he'd been behaving well, the prisoner would not have a case to complain against him. It could never be owed. It would always be a gift if it were granted, but it's also deserved. See, it's a deserved gift, a deserved grace. So it's really undeniable that there is such a thing as deserved grace. And if there's deserved grace, that means that grace does not mean undeserved favour. It can mean deserved favour or merited favour. And of course, with parole, when a prisoner is released on parole, that freedom can be lost through disobedience. So we see the deserved gift can be lost through disobedience, and the gift can come with attached conditions requiring the person to obey to keep that privilege, that gift, that grace. So just looking at the top ones here, so we have some examples of things that are owed that are not deserved. So they're pretty basic. An example, a man is offered $1 million to mow his neighbour's lawn. Obviously, the money is not deserved. But if he does the work, if the man mows the lawn, it is owed. So the offer was a grace. He didn't have to offer $1 million. So it's a grace because the wage is larger than what is deserved, but the money is owed. Here's the trick. Although the offer is a grace, the thing offered, because obedience is done to gain it, it is given as of debt. It's not a gift anymore. Once the person works to gain it, if the guy that offered wants to back out, well, he's not entitled to back out anymore. The guy who did the mowing could take the neighbour to court if he had legal evidence of the offer and legal evidence that he had done the work. He would be owed $1 million, even though it's not deserved. See, there is such a thing as things that are owed and given as of debt, not as a gift, that are not deserved. So, two other examples. Justification is offered on the condition that we first get circumcised. We get circumcised, so now God owes us the justification he offered. It is not deserved, but it is owed. Similar situation with the faith alone doctrine. I won't bother reading that, but it's just the same thing, only instead of getting circumcised, it's believing. So in all three cases, the person does not deserve it, and it is given as of debt. And I won't go through the other two examples, but you can see them there. You can read them there, obviously. So all unmerited favour is grace, but not all grace is unmerited favour. Some grace is merited. So if we say that anything which is of grace is not deserved, so if we define grace as unmerited favour, like we saw in the dictionary there, and like I'm proposing, is a lie from the devil. This means that some things which are owed are gifts, because some things are both owed and not deserved. So if you want to say everything that is not deserved, everything that is grace is not deserved, you're saying that some things which are owed are of grace. There is no such thing as a gift which is owed, or as grace which is owed. Therefore, grace does not mean unmerited favour. Grace means favour. So I have got a bit of an answer to what I anticipate could be an objection by a faith alone Christian down the bottom. I won't bother going through it, but I've already kind of gone through it in a sense. But so look, it's a pretty serious error, and the devil definitely uses this to build on other doctrines, and that's why I'm going through all the lies individually, just so we can see how many there are, and just so we can hone in on each one and not lose them in the midst of all the other lies. You know, sometimes I feel a bit overwhelmed with the task of correcting soteriology and theology, because the lies are just piled one on top of the other, and you really need to go through it in a systematic way. So that's what I'm attempting to do here. The next video will be similar to this one, but it'll be about grace and works.